Hello YouTube friends and welcome to this week's video. This week's video is the first of a three-part series looking at 2021 in review. This week will be my 11 favorite photos. Next week, the 21st at 10 a.m. Pacific time, will be a live stream where I'm going to walk you through the process of creating a photo book from this year's favorite photos. In addition to the 11, there will be a few more than just those 11 photos. We'll walk you through that whole book creation process in Lightroom Classic. And then the third video in this series will be on December 21, and that will be at this normal 7 a.m. release time. That will be a pre-recorded video, a reflection on the year, some personal stuff, professional stuff, photography stuff, physical stuff, all the P's. P becomes important as you get older. Anyway, and that video will also then look ahead to 2022, which seems like a really big number and so far away, but yet so close. So let's get started with this video. We're going to talk about my 11 favorite photos. Now, let me give you a little background on this process. My thought is in doing this, it's reflective. They're not my best photos. They're not necessarily the photos I would put in a portfolio, but most of them are. But they're photos I think that reflect how my experience of the year was, both emotionally, somewhat professionally, somewhat as a photographer. So they're kind of a time capsule of what I'm thinking about, experiencing, feeling, and noticing this year. So I encourage you to do a similar process. It's really interesting to look at a year's worth of work and to discover themes, to discover locations, to discover subjects, to discover composition things you're doing. It's a really helpful process to be reflective, improve your awareness of what you're doing or maybe not doing, and then help you look forward to what you want to do in the photos ahead. So let's take a look at what I'm doing in these photos and how I took them. So we're going to start with a gear list and then we'll go from there. So let's take a look at the gear I used for these photos. Starting off with the camera I used. All these photos were taken with my trusty Fujifilm X-T3, which I have had for a number of years and really enjoy. The lenses were all zoom lenses, starting with my newest lens, the 70-300, which I really love. And you can watch an introductory video about that, as well as a video where I compare it with the 100-400, which was loaned to me by Fujifilm USA. So this 70-300 was used in 5 of the photos, and the 100-400 was used in 2 of the photos. So you can tell I like me some telephoto zoom lenses. Speaking of zoom lenses, another lens I used for one of the photos was the 10-24 zoom, and then 2 photos were taken with the 16-80. And then last but not least, my trusty long-term companion of 6+ years, the 18-135 was used in one of the photos. So one of the things that's fun to do when you're doing this kind of process of choosing some photos for reflection and review of a year is to see if there's any themes, see if there's any visual themes, any subject themes, any content themes, location themes, mood, all that kind of stuff. So as you look at this whole sequence of photos, you can see that one of the themes I do is details, I do close-ups, I do minimal compositions in a lot of ways. And that's a reflection of both my personality and preference, both for how I organize the stuff in my 3D life and how I organize stuff, prefer to organize subjects in my 2D photographic life. So let's take a look at these photos. We'll talk a little bit about them. I'll share the locations and dates, and you can see the exposure data as well. All these photos will be also available on Flickr, which I'll include a link below so you can take a look at those on your screen, larger and without the YouTube compression. So here's photo number 1. I start with this photo because I took a lot of photos this year at Bellevue Botanical Garden. It's a great place to go to find photos, different types of photos for different seasons. There's always something interesting going on. And back in April, this backlight on the leaf at 300 millimeters with the 70 to 300 just glowed. And I think this is a great reflection on my overall feeling of the year. There's, in the midst of a lot of darkness, in the midst of all the stuff all of us are dealing with, there's some light if we look for it, if we move around so that we can see it, if we change our perspective. So that's my deeper story behind this photo. Sometimes the things we want to look at are hiding from us. This little frog was certainly well camouflaged. He's a little tiny guy about this big. And I didn't even see him. My wife did, and she pointed him out. And so I got the 70 to 300 out and cranked it out to 300. Got really close visually to the frog. I'm still probably 3 feet away, and created a bunch of photos. And again, this is another reminder to slow down, look for things, concentrate on what you want to see, eliminate distractions as much as you can. It helps if you do this. Yeah, so you'll notice a lot of these photos are about removing distractions, removing things that detract from what you want to pay attention to. So a lesson for life through photography. Third photo here, another example of paying attention to details. Taking advantage of things that are surprises. So we don't get a lot of butterflies around here in the Pacific Northwest, at least where I live. So I was walking on a trail that's about a mile from my house. I had the 100 to 400. Again, thank you Fujifilm USA for the loan of that. And this butterfly landed on a leaf. So what are you going to do except take some photos? But it's a matter of being in a place to take advantage of the unique things when they happen. It's a matter of being prepared to do that and slowing down enough so you can see it. So this photo reminds me that while I may have one thing in mind when I'm going out and creating photos, always be aware, be prepared to notice the surprises, the unexpected, and don't just be so focused on the thing you're thinking of creating images of that you miss these unexpected gifts of a surprise that is pretty uncommon. Speaking of uncommon, we took a road trip this past June to southern Utah, where my in-laws live, down around Cedar City. And this photo is at Kolob Canyons. And for me, this photo is about doing some work in the midst of a whole array of photo taking opportunities that don't require a lot of work because the subject is so interesting. The light is doing interesting things, so you don't have to work real hard with composition. So I was feeling not lazy, but I wanted to do some composition work that required foreground and background. So this tree was just off the parking lot. And it was a beautiful structure of this tree without leaves. I love that, the starkness of that against the blue sky and the golden glow of the mountains. And then just a little composition work at 10 millimeters ultra wide to include the branches kind of nestled in the valley there of the mountain ranges. So this photo was about halfway through our trip through the canyon, and it was motivating me to continue looking for ways I could create compositions besides just these awesome, majestic landscapes. So it was inspiration to keep going through the rest of the photos. Next up is this juvenile bald eagle, taking advantage again of that 100 to 400 millimeter on loan from Fujifilm USA at the maximum zoom range to get this expression. I love the look. I love the ruffle. I love the gray sky that creates a lot of contrast, creates a lot of mood and atmosphere. And then just the eagle, you can concentrate on the face and the feathers and that look. So again, reducing clutter, minimal composition. There's nothing else here except the bird and the branch and that look. Another gift. And another gift of a bird, this little guy in the Audubon Loop Park at Marymore Park just last week. Winter fluff is going on. We've got the bare branches. This photo again, I chose it to include in my favorite photos because it's a reminder of in the busyness, in the barrenness, we can adapt as this bird does to the seasons, to the challenges, and we can go ahead and do our thing. Again, this is with the 70 to 300 at 300 millimeters. You'll notice that almost all my photos with zoom lenses are at the most telephoto end of the zoom. It's just a preference. Yeah. Again, I love the detail in this photo. You can almost feel the fluffiness of the feathers here with the bird. That 70 to 300 lens is such a great value. I really enjoy it. The more I use it, I love that I can get relatively close to subjects and still get tons and tons of detail. Moving from birds to downtown Bellevue. One of my favorite things to do as I'm walking around is I love the architecture in downtown Bellevue, especially as it's changing, new buildings going up. But one of my favorite things to do is to notice little moments that involve people adapting to this urban environment and taking a break in this case. So this person's taking a break. I think they're smoking a cigarette and looking at their phone. And so they found a little place of peace and quiet where they could do their thing, even though it doesn't look very peaceful and quiet. I know that when you are doing some kind of work, just changing your environment can be a big adjustment to your attitude and your feelings. So I love the anonymity here of this person, that it's not a specific person. We can all kind of imagine, okay, how do we find peace and quiet from our regular day-to-day hecticness and take some little moments for ourselves. Another little moment here that I didn't have to travel far at all for. This is a leaf on my car in Sammamish. After a rain, surprise, it rains in Sammamish, Washington in the Northwest. It does quite a bit. But it gives you gifts of these kind of moments. And the thing I want to remember in this photo, because I was there when I took it, is to remember that where you move affects what you see. So from one perspective, this leaf is just a leaf on a windshield, but from another, it changes its shape to that, our prototypical Valentine's heart shape. So I like that. I like seeing connections between nature and our symbolism, and then adds layers to the depth of the photo that leaves it open to interpretation by other people. I know I have one interpretation, and hopefully it brings other people into the photo as well, because there's layers of visuals beyond just a leaf on a rainy windshield. So that's my takeaway from this photo, and one of the reasons I like it so much. Back again to the garden with the 70 to 300 to 300 millimeters. One of my favorite things about this lens is how close it can focus, even though it's a pretty long zoom lens. I believe it's about 18 to 24 inches. I'll put the exact specifications down below for its minimum focusing distance, which lets you, because you're magnifying so much at 300 millimeters, it lets you get all the little details of the pollen of the bee doing its thing, and the details of the leaves, while at the same time, because you're at 300 millimeters, everything in the background goes away. It becomes just a blur. It becomes non-distracting. It becomes just a texture. So I really like that kind of thing. I know personally in my life, I find I'm doing that more and more. I'm trying to declutter to keep it simple. And I know I do that in my photography. So I think in this case, it's one place where photography has informed my 3D real life by taking things I've learned in the 2D world of photography and adapting it to my real life. Another photo from the garden, another close-up, just simple details. Again, when you simplify images, it takes away all the things that would be distracting. And that's such a powerful lesson for me this year, is to really concentrate on the simple, the things I need to pay attention to, the important things, and to notice the details, to be present in them, be aware of them, be aware of my reactions and emotions. So I'll talk more about that on the video December 28th. So now would be a good time to subscribe so you'll get a notification that there's a new video towards the end of the year. And last but not least, and also a photo taken with my lens I've used the most over the past 6 or 7 years, the 18 to 135. So this is in Parowan, Utah. The story behind this photo is we had just stopped for lunch in this little town, and the place we had promised a really good cinnamon roll. It was okay. It was okay. But on the way after we left and we were making a turn, I noticed this sign, so we pulled over, and I just love the texture here. I love the story, the age, the rust, the decay, but again against the blue sky, vacancy, and then arrows. There's journey implications. I mean, you can read lots of stuff into this depending on where you are and what you're currently feeling. So this for me says forward and vacancy when we think about the next year. We don't know what it's going to provide yet, but there's options and opportunities. So I'm going to think that way as I look at this photo. So yeah, was I thinking about all these things as I was looking and creating these photos? No, not really. But in reflection, and as you get to live with the photos a little bit, they can, if they have the opportunity, they can tell deeper stories for you personally and create a diary, a visual diary of your feelings and experiences of a year. So I encourage you, highly encourage you to take a look back at your year of photos or whatever time frame you want, and look at them, discover and select your favorites, find some themes, look for messages for yourself, things you notice, things you were aware of, and then how that affects, like I said, your 3D life in the real world out here. So I hope you found that a little bit helpful or interesting or entertaining. Again, those photos will all be linked on, can be found on Flickr, and I'll provide that link in the description below. And if you have links you want to share to your photos from your year, I add those to the comments or send me an email at, and I'll include my email address down below as well, the contact form on my website. I'd love to take a look at your photos and share in your past year as well. If you have comments, thoughts, things you would like to share and add to the conversation about this video, please add those below. If you enjoyed this video, I would really appreciate if you'd click the like button, because it also helps you. By clicking that like button, it tells YouTube, hey, this kind of stuff is what I like, so show me more of that. And if you want to see even more of this, then subscribe to this channel, because as I mentioned earlier, this is the first of 3 videos kind of rounding out 2021, reflecting on the year past and looking ahead to 2022. So if you subscribe, you'll know when the next video comes out and get an information, what do they call that? A notification about that. I hope you stay safe and well during this holiday season as we close out the year. I hope it's been a great year. I hope you have a fun time creating photos in this bit of time if you get a chance to. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. So until we meet again, bye for now.